the fact is that my premise on the Constitution that I stated at the very beginning um, is pretty simple. I consider our Constitution scripture. Every single one of the framers affirmed that the Constitution was inspired by the divine hand of providence. They all claimed that the Lord had intervened in what they were trying to do as they were bickering and so forth, and definitely inspired them to work together and to cooperate and to make concessions. I think some of the concessions that they made, my personal opinion, was absolutely wrong and not in accordance or congruent or in harmony with uh, the Lord and gospel principles, such as maintaining slavery. If you read my book, the first 5 weeks of the Constitutional Convention was literally fighting back and forth on whether they would maintain the founding principle of the Declaration of Independence, that all men were created equal, and therefore all people were to be free and slavery could not exist in this new republic. And that was the biggest holdup for those first 5 weeks. And it wasn't until 3 states stepped forward, that was Georgia and the 2 Carolinas, during the Constitutional Convention. They stepped forward and said, if you're going to make this about slavery, we're leaving. And I've said this before to friends and cohorts and even people that I don't agree with, that I truly believe that that was the biggest mistake that they made. I think that had Madison, Mason, and the rest of them held their ground and said, fine, you good luck with Spain and good luck with Britain and all of the rest of the harassments that you're going to get if you want to break this union just over the fact that you want to have slavery and the enslavement of your fellow man, then fine, you're on your own. And then allowed that to end in its natural course that way. I truly believe that they would have seen the light, because Spain was just to the south of them. The only reason Georgia existed with, what was it, 10-acre lots for the indentured servants that they were giving to those who came over from the penal colony. It was a penal colony, and it was strategically placed there as a buffer zone from the rest of the colonies, so that it would force Spain to have to go through Georgia first before they could get to the Carolinas and so forth. And so that's why they had smaller plantations and smaller plots and so forth. But anyway, had Georgia recognized that, and had, I think, Carolina, even if they would have left, I think they would have ended up coming back to the table, or they would have ratified the Constitution. Just like Rhode Island, maybe reluctantly, but they still would have. But Rhode Island left the Constitutional Convention, and they were, I don't want to say forced, but they recognized the error of their ways, but they definitely didn't ratify the Constitution the way it was supposed to have been ratified. And a few other states did some interesting ratifications. But I digress, and I've gotten kind of off what I really wanted to say, that I truly believe that the Constitution is scripture, but it's not scripture for the salvation of man. It is scripture for the governance of mankind. And I truly believe that it was the Constitution that should have propagated and should have established a centralized general government or federation, not a large federation or like a UN. But I truly believe that all nations could easily become a part of this republic. But again, I'm digressing. The fact is that the Lord inspired it, and we have a responsibility of fixing it. There is only one way of fixing it. There are lots of conventions out there, and so when people listen to me talking about a convention for Republic Review, I do not want you to misconstrue the fact that Republic Review is strictly an audit of the Constitution, or the contract, as I've been saying throughout this show. The contract is in egregious violation by the general government. We've never delegated all these powers, as I've pointed out throughout these previous shows. If you want to end the Fed, If you want to get rid of the Bureau of Land Management, the Department of Interior, the Department of Education, and all of these usurpations of states' rights and powers, the only way to do that is through auditing the Constitution and letting the states basically come to a resolve that these things were never delegated to the federal government. And that way, the states can then go to the federal government and say, we never gave you these powers. The fact that you're taxing us for unconstitutional roles, responsibilities, and powers is a egregious violation.